I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda, and you're listening to Hard NOC Life.
Well, it's the NOC in full color, you see me? The Hard NOC Life, comics, movies, and TV, yeah. Pop culture with a different
I think we're recording now.
Good. Hi.
Yay.
Hard NOC Life, Keith Chow.
I'm Dominic Mon. We have a guest today.
We do have a special guest host. Can you introduce our illustrious guest?
Oh, this is Erin Quill, and she's old pal, and we're very good at a lot of things. Among them are stage musicals and the Oscars. And one of the things we're going to talk about is the Oscars. And Erin Quill, what would you like to say to the Nerds of Color audience?
Broadway's own Erin Quill. Welcome to Hard NOC Life.
For those of you who don't know, my name is Erin Quill. I have a blog, and Keith and I were just chatting that blogs almost don't exist anymore. But I have a blog that is 12 years old this year called Fairy Princess Diaries, where I advocate for diversity and inclusion within the theater community and extended communities. And then I was a member of the original Broadway company of Avenue Q. And I've done various stage musicals, and every year at BroadwayCon, I host a bunch of panels, and I get into it, the ins and outs of being Asian and Pacific Islander in theater, not just New York, but surrounding areas. But people who have come and spent their time talking to me for a while include Amy Hill, BD Wong, Ruthie Ann Miles, Tony winner. BD has a Tony as well. Just kind of Mark De La Cruz, who's a sub, who is a swing. He's not a swing. No, sorry. He's a, what is
He's
he?
a swing set. What is he?
No, he's a standby
Okay.
in Hamilton for all the male leads in Hamilton. He's like ridiculous.
He's the one who switched roles halfway through recently, right?
I was really confused because I thought standby was a sexual identification, but it's a word. It's a theater word, right?
You know, yes, it's a theater classification.
Standing by as a by. Okay. Sorry. Which is fine. It would be cool if you stand by whatever that is.
Oh no, I mean we got a lot to talk about.
Because, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Recently, Erin, you posted about how 2024 is going to be like the most Asian Broadway ever. So we'll get into that. We're going to talk about musicals, and we're going to talk about what happened last night, which was the Oscars. And and how that transpired, and maybe we'll forecast to 2025's Oscars and see how many musicals might or might not be nominated next year.
Oh my gosh!
But let's start with the events of last night and the 96th annual Oscar ceremony. There were some Asian winners. Hayao Miyazaki won again for Best Animated Feature. The VFX crew from Godzilla -1.
I have all those Godzillas, by the way.
That was awesome.
My son has an entire crate of Godzillas. And so when they walked up with it, I was like, oh, Liam, look, that's your Godzilla.
Yeah.
One. I have these exact same ones because that was his favorite movie this year.
Shout out to the action figure collectors. We finally had our moment on the Oscar stage.
Oh,
but the biggest Asian American winner last night, of course, was Emma Stone for Best Actress.
Emma Stone.
The big upset over Lily Gladstone. But seriously, what were the takeaways from? I actually thought it was quite well-paced Oscar ceremony. It ended on time, which was probably due to Al Pacino forgetting to list the nominees for Best Picture.
Right.
But what were your like highs and lows from last night's ceremony?
Okay, so the highlights for me, I really enjoyed I'm Just Ken. For me, that made the whole show because clearly musicals are my thing, and like I was into it. When Simu Liu and crew came out, I was like, yes, that was the icing on the cake. Because I enjoyed him so much in Asian backflip Ken mode.
Right.
I really found him very charming and kind of that Asian bro category that's like, dude, I can beach too. Like it just, I loved Barbie. I loved all the references to Barbie. I enjoyed how they kept really to the paradigm of, okay, here's past winners, but we're only going to have 3 white people and then 2 people of color. They kept that up as long as they could until they got to the Best Actress category, and then they couldn't do it because like it's just not there. So they had Michelle Yeoh in there, but right in the middle. So you knew the Oscars were not
Mm.
racist, like right in the middle of all these white blonde ladies. I thought that was unique.
It
So
was a
I like
move.
the way they, yeah, it was a move. Like I can just tell whoever was putting that together was like, oh, put Michelle in the middle. Just
Well,
put her
I
in the
wonder,
middle.
you like, if they were anticipating like history being made and having the first Indigenous actress win Best Actress, because it reminded me of the year where they saved Best Actor for last, because they
Ooh,
Right.
thought
yeah.
everyone thought it was Chadwick Boseman, and then it was like Anthony Hopkins accepting from like the beach because he wasn't there. No one
Yeah.
expected him to win, and but they rearranged, because typically Best Actress. Well, that one they put Best Actor as the last category, which was
Right.
wild.
That was one of those flubbed up COVID years, right?
Right.
Among
But
other weird
normally it's
things
the
happening.
actors, then director, picture. But last night it was actor, director,
Yeah.
actress, picture,
And it was super messed up that year because Chadwick Boseman just passed, obviously.
right.
It's
Well,
extra.
and that's why the assumption was he was going to win.
Yeah.
So they saved that for the very last
Yeah,
category.
they did a close up on his widow, and
Oh,
then
And it was
Oh,
like Anthony
golly.
Hopkins for some movie nobody's heard of. So that was
right.
that was
For a
fun.
movie where he loses his mind. Great.
Again, Dominic,
Great.
any highs from the ceremony for you?
Well, I like the Ken thing too. I was a little disappointed that Matchbox 20 didn't show up as a cameo in the musical number because, close watchers of Barbie, I think that Matchbox 20 gag is one of the funniest gags in all of Barbie.
But they did have Slash. Like when
That
was
Slash
cool.
came in,
Or
Slash
came
was
in.
cool.
Or was it somebody who looked like Slash?
That was Slash.
No, it was
That was
Slash.
definitely
It was
Slash.
Slash.
Prime?
My
Okay.
head exploded.
Yeah,
Like
they
I
did.
stood up. I went, that is Slash. Oh my
Yeah.
God, my childhood is right there. Like, that part was cool. And also, I want to know where he got his bespoke, bedazzled pink suit, because I would like a copy of that pink suit in my wardrobe.
Ryan Gosling, not Slash.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Gosling. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good suit.
I wish Slash's top hat was bedazzled in pink. That would have been cool.
Well,
He was never gonna do that.
right. I mean,
Dude, he's Slash.
he is Slash,
Yeah,
apparently.
He's Slash.
He can
Like
get away with it.
I mean,
he
with
showed
the-
up. He showed up and he did the guitar thing, and that's all we can ask.
I'm Slash. About the Best Actress moment there were a couple of different things that, and I'd like to talk about the whole. Did I just notice that it was Gladstone versus Stone actually in that formulation?
Yeah. Stone on
That's
stone.
a
for
little
sure.
weird. Okay,
We
but
watched Stone win over Gladstone, and then we were all kind of not glad.
yes,
Yeah.
basically.
And probably stoned too.
I
Yeah.
have a few thoughts on that I'd love to get into them, but my initial thought was it was interesting how they staged it with sort of direct conversations with all the nominees, right? Including, and to your point, Michelle Yeoh centered amongst 4 famous white ladies, and you can't go wrong with Michelle Yeoh in the spotlight. It was
No.
great staging. Her dress was like, seen from space.
And for what it's worth, the center presenter were all the winners from last year. That was the
Yeah,
Right.
yes.
kind of staging of it. Yeah.
Nice, Keith. The
And just so
center
happened
presenter.
all the Asians won last year, so that's why.
Yeah, the first time. Yeah.
Right.
everyone's- this is one of my points is like, if we're still counting firsts, we really haven't come that far. And I know that's not a popular opinion, but until it kind of like tracks that, like, it's no big deal. And we don't all have to point out every time we inhale and breathe and walk on stage and everything, then we're not really winning. We're still one-offs. And I know we like to say we're winning, and we are, but it is slow. Progress is slow. And that's the hard part for the kids, right? Because we want to we just want everything to happen in a wave. And kids today, young people today are not used to waiting. And like, it comes back to like, I guess we're all elders now. The elders going like, no, you don't understand. See, once upon a time in the 90s, there was this thing called no Asians at all. It's hard to story tell and fable them all into like appreciating why this is cool now, where it wasn't cool for so long that we forgot we were even allowed to be nominated.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's good, for the youngins. I'm sorry, I'm the one who doesn't have kids, but like, it's always good to look at the long view and look at there are moments of progress, even though things may still seem like they suck. There was like 80 years ago, like the civil rights movement, we had waves of progressiveness. And so it's not just like everything has always sucked and the revolutionary thinking just started yesterday. Like, for God's sake. But I
Yeah,
would say,
there's always been people. There's always been one or two.
yeah, and progress happens in steps, and that's one thing where I think the communication gets awkward. But that's a very broad point. My specific point was Jennifer Lawrence talking to Lily Gladstone. Remember
Weird.
all those conversations? It was an interesting staging that they had, sort of one-on-one heart-to-hearts between these, 5 different pairs. I did feel like Jennifer Lawrence at that moment was the most reading off a teleprompter of all the people who were reading off a teleprompter. And it felt a little like maybe, to be gracious, maybe she was worried of saying the wrong thing or saying the thing the wrong way because she was paired with the one non-white person who was the assumed favorite. So she was more on the spot. But it was like, Jennifer Lawrence, you are a professional actor. Like, yeah, you can make this like seem like
And I feel like there's actually some
No.
controversy about Jennifer Lawrence because I feel like she's had some like, scandal about
She had a Hawaii
there's
controversy,
representation in the
not
past. I
unlike
forget-
Emma Stone.
Yeah, I'm not exactly. Yeah, right. It would have been like Emma Stone, ignoring Michelle Yeoh when she received her Oscar. Oh yeah, that did happen last night too. She totally.
Oh
like,
yeah. Oh what?
She totally
Mm.
whiffed Michelle Yeoh. In
Oh,
fact,
yeah,
somehow Michelle Yeoh was presenting the statue to Emma, but it wound up in Jennifer Lawrence's hand, and Jennifer was the one who gave it to Emma.
Right.
It was weird.
So it was like a clutch of nice white ladies.
Yeah, I think maybe they were supposed to be allegedly they're friends.
Yeah, I think they were friends or something.
Allegedly they're friends.
But there is something someone tweeted at the time about like, oh, of all the people to talk to Lily, it would be Jennifer Lawrence, who's had maybe it was around
Oh,
Winter's
I know what it is
Bone or
because in Hunger
Games.
Games, in Hunger Games, that character in the books is written as a indigenous person,
Oh, okay.
and
And she darkened her skin for the role.
She darkened. She dyed her hair brown, which I mean,
and she tanned.
brown.
I would say tan, not.
Oh,
darkened
did she
her-
tan?
tanned. She
I
tanned for
wasn't
this
aware
role.
she tanned, but like, here's the thing: it came off to me like Jennifer Lawrence made herself a little less blonde and tall and white in that moment because she knew she was going to be talking to Lily Gladstone. And, I've seen some discourse on the web, which of course is the worst place to go and look for discourse.
But also
because-
the only place. Let's be
but
real.
also the only place.
We generate it
know-
too. Let's be fair.
Right. Oh, and I'm guilty as well. Cause like, I'll for sure side eye somebody going out. But like this morning I read it and somebody made a joke about Emma Stone being Asian, and it's somebody we all know. And
Yes.
she's a Pulitzer Prize nominee.
Yeah.
And she and I are friends. We go back, we took the same comedy class.
I actually
when we
made the
were
same joke
starting.
too.
Yeah,
Well-
exactly.
well,
It's like a lot of people.
It's an easy joke.
Yeah.
And it's an easy joke to have. And she's like, is it not on point to make this joke anymore? I'm like, it still tracks, but like we just don't mention that movie. And then somebody who I don't know, like came at me like, well, you can't blame the actor for the movie. And I was like, well, actually, in this case, I do sort of blame the actress for taking the part in Aloha because that person was supposed to be Chinese, Pacific Islander, and or whatever her white side was. Well, guess what? I happen to be Chinese and Pacific Islander and whatever and Irish in my case. So
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah, shout out
pretty
Cillian Murphy, by the way.
Yeah,
We'll get to him.
Cillian Murphy.
Oh my gosh.
Cillian Murphy. I fucking love Cillian Murphy.
But I mean, and for what
Yeah.
it's worth, like I made the Emma Stone joke just because around the time of Aloha, that's when I was making the rounds on the cable news channels, and I started the
Oh,
hashtag
sure.
Emma Stoned at the time.
Yeah.
So that
Mm.
it's an easy joke to make.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. And the thing is, like, I was just like, oh, can we just not mention Aloha? And the person was like, well, I said, well, I kind of do blame Emma. I mean, she's apologized, but I kind of do blame her if the characteristics of the character you're playing include other races than your own. I don't think you should take it unless they're going to change the character. And I said, and I say that because I happen to be mixed race. And this person was like, I'm mixed race too, and you're not special, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
Ooh.
girl, unpack all that, mixed race anger and like go jump in a lake. Like that's the hard part for me watching.
Also an Emma Stone reference to Poor Things, but
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Just it's all full circle.
And I will say, like, in terms of Emma Stone, like, that was a remarkable performance. However, as a professional actor, and I know I'm going to get hate for this, it is not that hard to play super weird.
But that's to be fair, that's an Oscar trick to get the award, right?
Well, the other
Yeah,
thing too
no,
about the
but-
Oscars are not even
Yeah.
the Oscars. You know, for a while, the Oscars have not been about awarding the like best performance, right? It's always
Right.
there's like a politics to it. There's a campaigning to it, right? And there's like, to me, the like for all the prognosticating, the people who like to do the Oscar pool and the betting, everything.
Yeah.
Like part of it is like, well, the reasoning is that Emma Stone's 35 and she's already won an Oscar. Like,
Yeah.
she doesn't need the like, you know, culminating her career Oscar. So there's plenty of opportunities for her to win again. That's the
Right.
logic I was going in when I was filling out my ballot. That like,
Mhm.
well, I mean, Emma did give an amazing performance in Poor Things, one of my favorite movies of the year. But I was like, but Lily Gladstone, there's like just all of the narrative of her win just makes more sense. You know,
It
I
does.
mean,
And if you watch
discounting
her
what the
film,
Academy's been for years, of course, but that's
Yeah.
why I was most surprised by the Emma Stone win. Just not that it wasn't deserving, it was very much deserving in that way we award art, but it just didn't make sense to me that you would give such a young actress 2 Oscars already. Like that's just. But nowadays, I guess a lot of people have. I mean, Billie Eilish has 2 Oscars now, so like, it
yeah.
doesn't matter how many
Wait,
Oscars.
but can
one
I add
gets.
something? I mean, like, it's not like to be like a apologist or revisionist or anything, but it's like for the pop culture record, yeah, Emma Stone acknowledged the thing on the MTV Awards, the Aloha problem. So it's not like she
Yeah.
lived hiding from it forever. So
No,
good
no.
on-
I
good on that.
said in my response to this person, like, she apologized and I accept that apology and I get it.
Yeah.
But like, frankly, if anybody could see me, which you can't see me because like this is a podcast, but if you saw me, I'm a brunette. I clearly look mixed race. Like I am like, I remember reading the description and then
Yeah.
being like, and they cast Emma Stone. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm right here.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time of the Nerds of Color, I think I like listed but like 5 or 6 mixed race Asian actresses who could pass for the
Yeah.
same part, and
Oh,
you didn't
yeah.
have to cast Emma Stone. Like, yeah, how Chloe Bennett always goes to the like people don't know I'm Asian, like
Yeah.
spiel whenever you know people realize her name is Chloe Wong. You know what I mean? Like that's like
Oh, yeah.
Haley Steinfeld could have played that part. You know what I mean? Like,
Haley Steinfeld would have been great. I mean, all of those people would have been great.
Haley
Like, look,
Steinfeld's
Haley
great in
Steinfeld would have been a
everything.
great Katniss Everdeen, by the way. You know,
yeah.
let's not-
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, golly. What? Yeah. Let's interchange those. Maybe no one will notice. Huh? We'll just recast Hunger Games. No one will notice.
use
It-
AI to just face swap.
it's a blonde woman with big eyes. But I just want to say, for the sake of argument, to shift from poking one bear to poking another bear, it's kind of okay because actually I wasn't rooting for Flowers of the Killer Moon as a movie that much. On a pure movie level,
Mhm.
I think Poor Things deserves more spotlight than Flowers of the Killer Moon for various reasons. So I look at it in that sort of
Yeah.
web of things. That's why so all the aspects of looking at it are important. That's one aspect I was looking at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing about the presenters speechifying to the nominees I found like interesting and is that like one, we were kind of robbed of like the clips of the actors' actual performance. Like I kind of wanted to see I wanted to see clips of each of their performances, which is all right, whatever. But also when they started off with the supporting actresses and Davine Randolph won for another amazing performance, but like at least those presenters seem like they knew the nominees.
Right.
Yeah.
Like all of the other actor presenters were like, to your point, reading off a script because like there's no except maybe Sam Rockwell and Robert
No,
Downey.
Key knew. Key had seen Sterling K.
Sterling.
Brown's
Yeah,
performance.
but you know what I mean. Like, but as
Absolutely,
far as like,
yeah.
but being like really friendly with one another, there's a lot of just
Mhm.
like Dom was saying, kind of like, what's on the cue card? Oh yeah, this person I have to present to. You know.
Yeah, I think it plays into aspects of power, right? These are powerful women in Hollywood, at least in terms of being cast. They get to greenlight projects based on their acceptance or their non-acceptance. And really clearly, Jennifer Lawrence was saying, I really don't know you. Like, you know, it was kind of that Mariah Carey, like, I don't know her.
Right.
I don't know her. And that honestly,
I remember that.
being dismissive. It was borderline dismissive. And listen, I know Jennifer Lawrence is also a mom and has young kids at home. So I don't want to discount the fact that she may have just been running on like a cup of coffee and a field of dreams.
Yeah, it
But,
could be.
you know, like
Field of Dreams, shout out to John Mulaney.
Yeah, a whole Field of Dreams monologue.
can I just say I worked with John Mulaney.
Yes, Sack Lunch Bunch.
Sack Lunch Bunch. And I will go to the mattresses for that man. He is just the best. I know he didn't treat his first wife quite so well, but I will say that
he and Olivia seemed pretty good together. So
yeah, well, he's surrounded by mixed race Asians.
Well, add that to the mixed race Asian, you know.
Yeah, because his writing partner is mixed race.
Okay. Female.
And he came up to me, and the little girl that was cast to play my daughter in that was mixed race. And then I was like, oh, I do look like her mother. I mean, you know, what her mother could possibly look like. Because her dad brought her to set, so I don't know what her mom looked like. But he actually pulled me aside and he's like, I don't like the way this line is working. And so he and his writing partner and I all shot lines back and forth until we figured out what he liked. And then he was like, yeah, let's do that one. Let's do that. He could have been nicer. And then a couple months later, I'm walking down 8th Avenue, and so is John Mulaney. Oh no, 6th Avenue. So is John Mulaney. He stops to talk to me. I was like, what is happening? He goes, Erin, hey, how you doing? And we chatted for like 5-10 minutes. And then you know how rare that is? Yeah. He goes, actually, I've been staring at your face in the edit booth for months now.
Right.
He's like, you just never gave a bad, he goes, I have so many options. He's like, it's actually difficult. And I'm like, wow, okay. He met my son. So I would go to the mattresses for John Mulaney. Hands down.
He should host next year.
That's way cool.
Absolutely should. Hands down, one of the nicest comics I've ever met. And I've met so many shitty comics that because I was on that D list. You know, I've known some troublesome comedians. Let's just say that.
He's the voice of Spider-Ham, isn't he?
He is the voice
of Spider-Ham. Okay, just checking. Okay.
Oh, that's another, like, I did see a lot of consternation about people pissed off that Spider-Verse didn't win. I'm like, it's Miyazaki. You can't, if Miyazaki is nominated, Miyazaki will win. There is no like, and you know, as
that's
much
like
as
a heavyweight bout as far as animated movies. Miyazaki
Across the Spider-Verse is half a movie. Let's come on.
Like, true that.
Give me the second half of that movie.
We assume will win,
and that will win. But yeah, you can't. This is where like nerddom kind of like nerddom is not the only game in town. And if you put Hayao Miyazaki, the master, up against the second of a 3-part Spider-Man movie, you got to give it to like the last movie of Hayao Miyazaki's career. Although it's probably not going to be his last movie, but yeah,
like Michael Jordan's last game, right?
Don't bring Space Jam into it.
Oh, speaking of nerds winning, I will say my favorite presentation last night was when Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito came out.
Yes,
and I thought they were going to do like a twins joke.
Absolutely.
They totally referenced Mr. Freeze and the Penguin. And not only that, they cut to Michael Keaton giving the best Batman performance in 30 years. Like he's Batman, and the crowd was way better. Way better than his performance in The Flash. And I loved his performance in The Flash. So that
was pretty nerdy. Has Bruce Wayne been invited to the Oscars? Probably, I guess.
The one quibble is that Mr. Freeze, Arnold Schwarzenegger, fought George Clooney and not Michael Keaton, but whatever. It's technically the same Batman. The Schumacher.
No, Batman is Batman.
Batman is Batman.
He lives on forever.
I did really like back to is it Cillian or Killian? I never know.
Killian Murphy.
It's Cillian Murphy. Okay, I've been saying it wrong all this time. Cillian Murphy.
No, but some people do say silly. You know, like with Irish names, like I have a particularly Irish name. My name actually means Ireland. So that's why Irish. Erin Gobra means Irish Ireland AF. Forever. Yeah. And my sister, I have a sister Colleen, which means girl. And then, you know, I was like, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have another sibling whose name is Irish?
I have another sister
baby?
named Shauna. Yeah. I mean, I was like, what's happening here? My father was very literal with all his Irish naming. But yeah, I was happy for Cillian Murphy. Killian Murphy.
Yeah.
Cillian Murphy. Yeah.
I
just said it. This is how we
I
started.
think you planted the Cillian. Yes. seed in her brain.
You thwarted
You
me.
incepted
You
her.
thwarted me,
like,
Dom.
like Cillian Murphy in Inception. You incepted the wrong.
Whoa.
I mean, last night was a
Wait,
big showing for Batman. Let's come on, like, because like Cillian Murphy won the Oscar, Margot Robbie was in attendance, Christopher Nolan won the Oscar.
yeah, Scarecrow won the Oscar. Awesome.
Scarecrow is now an Oscar winner. I have to.
Would you like to see my mask? But
on my personal blog, not the Nerds of Color, I have a whole list of Oscar related superhero actors. So I have a page for Batman, I have a page for Superman, I have a page for the MCU, and I have to go update that now since so many Batman related people have won Oscars last night. So
this is the part where we get really nerdy.
that's
Aaron.
the
Are you
nerdiest
down
shit
with
I
it?
do. I just maintain a
really-
database of all the Batman actors who have Oscars.
That's okay. Then the New York Times needs a reference.
But just for me, no one else gives a shit about this list but me. So.
No, I do. I want to see it, but well, anyway, I have seen it. I would like to continue about Cillian Murphy. I vote for unpacking that a bit.
First Irish actor to win in that category.
Yeah. Wow.
Not
No,
Irish heritage.
Come on.
Irish,
Oh.
Irish born.
Like
Irish.
As we would say, he's true Irish. He's a true Irish lad. Yeah.
All
Colin
right.
Farrell was nominated last year, but he didn't win.
Yeah, but he didn't win.
Colin Farrell is a true Irish lad too.
Yes,
we
he
think?
is.
Okay.
And
great.
that was the most Irish movie ever last year, Banshees of Inisherin. My
Yeah.
favorite movie from last year, by the way.
My super nerdy reference to try to top your nerdy, meta reference was that we all appreciated that people were speaking and aware of U.S. foreign policy and some terrible wars going on.
Mhm.
On the other hand, when, Cillian Murphy reached the end of his speech and said, he appreciated the peacemakers, I did
John
instantly
Cena.
thought he meant season 2 of the John Cena show.
Oh, well,
where-
Rizwan Manji is on that show. Yeah, that's a great show.
Yeah,
It's a great show.
And so I missed it. And John Cena, of course, was a presence.
Honestly, when he said, I was surprised the director didn't cut to John Cena in the audience.
Right.
Just
Maybe wearing clothes, maybe not.
Maybe just a mask
Maybe
just
right.
the helmet.
Do you really
with
want
with an eagle.
Eagly.
A mask with an eagle. That's why costuming is important.
Totally.
That was his point.
That was my Cillian Murphy point. Sorry, were there others? it was sort of an expected win, that one, sort of, right? I was
was an
rooting for
expected win, yeah.
Coleman Domingo because he's the Bay Area guy.
Mm.
Coleman Domingo is so Bay Area, regional rooting, and Rustin, excellent, interesting story. And Oppenheimer,
He was great in everything, though. He was great in everything this year, and he's a Broadway actor, and he's Afro-Latinx. He was in The Color Purple. He knocked it out of the park as well. I didn't think anybody could really vanquish the former Mister out of my mind. But he managed to do. I was like, man, that guy's scary. So
so that's actually a good segue, because what I wanted to talk about is that, again, going back to the presenters, one of the presenting pairs last night was Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, who are in the appropriate colors, the green and the pink, and they seem kind of frosty to each other. And I was wondering if they're like, are they still in character as Elphaba and
No,
Glinda,
that's
or do
very
they really just not like each other?
That's very typical Elphaba and Glinda behavior.
Yeah, exactly.
That has existed since the original Broadway company.
Wicked is coming out, directed by John Chu. Michelle
Chu,
Yeoh is
yeah.
also going to be in it as Madame Morrible.
Yep.
And I don't know what the movie's Oscar fate will be, but it is being released late in the year, and that's when Oscar movies tend to be released. There's another big movie coming out this year that has Oscar pedigree, and that's Joker: Folie à Deux, and all of the rumors point to that being a full-blown musical. Dominic and I were talking last week about the rumored budget went from 60 million for the first movie to over 200 million, and the main reasoning that could be is that they're going to do full-blown musical numbers, perhaps, with Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn.
For a fountain, a really big fountain.
So the reason we wanted to have you on, Erin, as our resident musical theater expert and veteran is what do you think is 2024 also going to be the return of the big movie musical? And will we see that next year in the Oscars?
I would love a big budget movie musical. Because La La Land, frankly, did not do it for me. It started off really strong, but then the premise of it being like the only white jazz player in LA, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Quickly, I was like, what? And there were a couple of, I don't want to pick on actors who sing as opposed to actors who sing and dance, but there were some missteps in there where it was clear one was stronger singer, dancer, mover, and one was not. And those from a musical theater perspective, I was like, oh, why did they show their feet? That was my, like cut away. Because like when you look at the movie version of Chicago, the director, Rob Marshall, very rightly cuts away from Renee's feet. And Catherine Zeta-Jones, who had a long history of being on the West End and was a music theater person in London and in Wales, her numbers are full out. You see her entire body, soup to nuts. And she was pregnant, by the way, but she was still fan kicking and everything. And then Renee Zellweger was like, it's all close up. So that's how, that's a very smart director and screenplay, writer who is aware of what the difficulties are when you transfer from people who are doing triple threats to people who have not a one trick pony, but like maybe 2 tricks on their pony. I would love to see the big budget musical come back. It is something that was missing from my childhood. I think in my childhood, maybe Grease was the only big budget musical for a really long time. And then there was this movement that everything about musicals was corny and hokey and nobody liked it. And then Ryan Murphy managed to bring it to the small screen, and now everybody's an expert on musical theater, right? And this is what I'll say, having just directed a show with 20-somethings, there's a lot more work in musical theater than meets the average eye. We do it so that you don't know that the work exists. But the problem with acting like the work doesn't have to exist already and that you just build onto it becomes then anybody thinks they can do it. So everybody thinks they can sing, everybody thinks they can dance, everybody thinks they can act. This is not
every
the
producer
case.
thinks everything should be a musical. Well, also in a way.
In a way. And here's what.
Which is not a bad thing necessarily. I'm just, anyway.
No, I mean, it's great. It's great to have people like Coleman Domingo. It's great to have people like Cynthia Rivio. Like
Ariana DeBose.
Yeah, Ariana DeBose, who starred in 13 on Broadway when she was probably 13. You have to have the right people in order to shoot a movie musical. Lady Gaga is a person that could do a movie musical, absolutely, because she actually went through NYU. So she's a triple threat as well. Like Ryan last night on telecast, on the Oscar telecast, he's been singing and dancing since he was a kid.
Mickey Mouse Club, right?
Mickey Mouse Club. So like there are all these people who have backgrounds who've like secretly hidden it like it's a guilty pleasure, and I think it's great. Like let your freak flag fly. Absolutely. But make sure the right people are in the parts.
There's something we've talked about on the pod recently is that like, two big movie musicals that came out in the last couple months were not marketed as musicals, which was an interesting decision. Like Mean Girls and Wonka, full-blown musicals if you watch the movie itself, but the trailers all act like they're just non-musical movies, just regular movies. And the reasoning that I think they asked a PR person from Mean Girls, like, why did you do that? And they said, well, people don't like testing shows and polls show people don't like musicals. So we didn't want to advertise as a musical. And the point that Dominic and I have made on the podcast is that, well, won't you piss them off more if you trick them into coming, the people who hate musicals, and it's a full-blown musical? Why not lean into the fact
have money?
Well, that's true. But lean into the fact that they're musicals, right? And hopefully, I mean, you can't not advertise Wicked as a musical, but the Super Bowl trailer doesn't really lean into like, I mean, you hear Cynthia singing the riff at the end of the trailer, but you don't necessarily, if you're not familiar with the show, you might think, oh, are they remaking Wizard of Oz?
Yeah, they don't hit you on the head with it's a musical in that ad, in the Wicked ad, do they? Huh?
No, I feel like, so Mean Girls, I think like everybody knew the Lindsay Lohan movie and people knew that it had been a musical. Now I will just preface this by saying my friend Nell Benjamin is the one that wrote Mean Girls.
Right on.
So I just want to, and she has a really funny story. She told me one time about our kids are the same age. And she said, oh yeah, one time she overheard her daughter saying to somebody, she was trying to coerce somebody, hey, I'll get you tickets to Mean Girls. And the kid was like 9. So that's what she was like, we got to watch this one. She's a little tricky.
That's a little Mean Girl like play, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. With Mean Girls, the musical, it kind of did bother me that I wasn't sure if they had cut all the songs or what was happening. So as a fan of the show, I did want to know that there were musical numbers in there, even if it's just like a brief.
When they
brief
cast so
moment.
many Broadway people in the movie that you would think that, like, again, lean into it. Why hide it if the whole point of the movie is that it's the movie version of the musical of the movie,
Well, yeah. And actually, when I went in to see Wonka, I went with my friend Carmen, who was in Avenue Q with me, and we sat down to watch Wonka, and we were like, "Did you know this is a musical?"
Yeah, 5 seconds into it, it's like, oh, Timothée Chalamet on a boat singing, and you're like, oh, they're not even giving you a break. It's like, we're gonna start singing right off the bat.
I'm not even familiar with the songs in Wonka. Are they good? The new Wonka.
They're
the
fine.
Wonka, it's original. It's not songs
not the
from the
Gene
Willy
Wilder
Wonka musical.
song. Okay.
It's its own musical, but it's a musical. These are all original songs for the film.
But it's a prequel, so it does
Homages,
reference. Yeah, there are different references to, the what is the earlier film, what is supposed to be in this universe, the later film.
Right.
But
then the music from the Gene Wilder film and the Broadway musical are different.
yes.
Like there's some overlap, but there are songs in
Yeah, it's
Right.
not the musical that was on Broadway.
Right.
Yeah, it's the Wonka film. And the Wonka film I thought was lovely. Timothée Chalamet is a graduate of Fiorella LaGuardia Performing Arts High School.
Oh.
So when I did a little bit of a deep dive, I was like, look at that, he's singing and dancing. He played the MC in Cabaret. Like, he apparently grew up a song and dance man as well. So, we love.
Did you see the SNL sketch about the horse? In your deep dive?
Oh yeah.
I like that bit. Sorry.
I mean, I just like him. He seems real fun. I will say this about theater people in general. Everybody has kind of a sense of humor, and in theater you work so closely with each other. You're zipping each other into costumes, and you're half changing, you're half naked in front of everybody, and you're doing all these things. There's no pretense and there's no reason for ego, because if you drop your part, that affects everybody else and vice versa. So like in theater, we all work together. That's very different from, it's an all play. Theater is an all play. That's why it's able to have so many different points of view. It's able to have so much diversity, because in theater, we're creating the world, but we're using like real people in front of people. We can't make them up. We can't CGI them in.
Can't fix it in post.
No, there is no post.
Right.
There is no post. And that's why no show that you do, even if it's quote unquote your same show and your regular track, it's always going to be different. It's always going to be new. You have to come at it with this perspective. Otherwise it doesn't work. And that's why, you can tell Timothée Chalamet in interviews and stuff seems to be easy to get along with. That's because he's a theater nerd. Jennifer Lawrence does not seem easy to get along with.
Right.
To circle back, she seems very privileged. She started as an Abercrombie and Fitch model, and then what did she moan about on a late night show? That they didn't wind up using her picture in the catalog.
Yeah.
Oh,
that is
go do community theater. Like,
that is
seriously,
such a fascinating point you just bring up. Yes, because some of us at the pub wonder out loud, what is Timothée Chalamet's appeal? Do we get it? It's not an easy fit, but I take the point there that like theater people have that special thing which makes them good to work with, and they will naturally gravitate more stardom because of that, or just more professional, cachet, because of that theater thing and not the I'm pretty on a screen thing necessarily.
Yeah, because you have to come in to any theater show knowing that you are only as valuable as your cast members, right?
Totally.
So it's not going to help me to come in with like a diva attitude, because guess what? My zipper could break. I could drop a line. Like, I was in a show, it was a very big regional show, and it was destined to come to Broadway, then pandemic. And it was based, and it was devastating.
Yeah.
And we had merch, and we had a big entertainment mogul company behind it, so we really thought it was going to go, and it didn't go. But one time, one of the actors, who was more of a headline name obviously than me, we began the scene. I looked, I was like, I knew what lines I was supposed to get to, and I knew his cue to give them to me. And then all of a sudden, but you have to, in theater, you can't just go away in your head and just pipe in when your line comes up, right? You have to be what we call in acting active listening. So I'm actively listening, and I'm like, wait, what is this guy saying? He said nothing, absolutely nothing that was in any way related to me being able to get to my next line to cue the next actor. But
Okay.
I knew that this is what we call went up, right? He went up. And if you watch Only Murders in the Building, you know, when Steve Martin talks about the white room, that he goes to the white room when he has his next line, he can't remember anything and he's trying to figure it out. He went to the white room. That was okay, because
Okay.
I was active listening, and I threw in a couple of extra lines that day, and I got to hand it off. You know, I did my Passover lines to get the next actress to her next line. And like, we were all in together. We came down after that line because we were up on a platform and then down. We came down, we got off the elevator. I said, what was that? He goes, damned if I know. And I was like, okay. And honestly, all I thought was
Yeah,
like,
a brain fart of some kind. So.
yeah, absolutely. And that's, and you know, honestly, theater is real people. Mistakes happen, moments happen, you know, it's okay, because we're all paying attention, we're all invested, and we're all in it together. And Timothy Chalamet's appeal is honestly, hey, I know how to work well with others. I may not be the best looking guy, you know, regardless of what you think, but like, theater people come in and do the job, and we don't take a lot of like bows or hand wavings or, yes, I was amazing in that, wasn't I? We just do the job, then we pack it up, we go home. If you need us back, we're back the same day, the next day. We know our lines, and that's, you know, I shot a couple of months ago Law and Order SVU, and I worked
Not
with
SUV,
Mariska.
that's the commercial word, right?
Right, exactly. I always get them confused. I'm like, is it a truck or is it an
Yeah.
episode?
Yeah.
So I shot with Mariska, and she said, you know, I came in, and she hadn't like met me in person, but we had met years ago backstage. And she came up to me, she came barreling up to me, and she goes, you nailed it. In your self-tape, you nailed it. Who are you? And I said, actually, we met, but it's a million years ago. I said, you came backstage at Avenue Q to see. She goes, see? She turns to this person next to her. See, I knew it. I knew she was a theater kid. I knew it. She goes, and I love those. She goes, I love those people from Avenue Q. She looked at me. She goes, you know what? I hire people from Avenue Q all the time. And I was like, yeah, I have
Apparently you
noticed that.
do.
She yeah, apparently she does. She goes, because she just likes working with people that are prepared.
Okay.
And
Nice.
that's it. And we did, she was like, hey, do you have any, like, how she started talking about something, and I was like, well, yeah, I can do that because I'm Australian. And she's like, what? She goes, do your lines like an Australian. And I did a take where we were like, oh yeah, well, he's recovering his memory, and we're not quite sure where he's going to go and stuff like that. And she was like, oh my God. She's like, you can just do that. You can just do that. And I was like, yeah. She's like, see, theater people.
Theater people.
You know, and I do think that that's the ace in the hole. If I'm a producer and I'm looking to cast a movie, I personally would be like, okay, I'm going to hire 10 theater people and maybe 2 very pretty leads that can bring in the box office money. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna do that because it
That's an
works on many
optimal
levels.
12 formula.
It is an optimal formula.
Just to put a pin in it, that's the magical, even superhero formula. If you look at like the Arrowverse, when all of the DC shows were on the CW, like how many of them came from the theater. We mentioned Darren Criss earlier, like he was in Flash. Grant Gustin, the Flash himself, is a theater kid through and through. He's back on Broadway now, actually, in Water for Elephants. So like, you know, Hugh Jackman, the biggest theater nerd of all and the biggest superhero of all, right? Like, and people actually try to like
Wolverine.
Yeah, people and remember when he was cast, and people try to like act like those worlds don't overlap. But like, if anything we've learned in the last few years is that the world of theater and the world of like superheroes and comic books overlap a great deal. Before we wrap up, Erin, one thing I wanted to end on is that you on your Fairy Princess blog recently and a couple weeks ago, predicted 2024 would be the most Asian year on Broadway.
The most Asian year on Broadway in a year where there is no show that is set in Asia.
Right.
Okay, so barring
no more Miss Saigons or
no
King
more
and Eyes.
Yeah, I mean, not no, you know, I want to be clear that, like, so I wrote a piece for Jeff Yang and Phil Yu's book Rise, and it was on what Miss Saigon gave us, the legacy in terms of like Asian Americans. And there are more careers that were launched with Miss Saigon than any other theatrical.
Salonga, Ava Noblezada, like they would not be here if not for Miss Saigon.
They would not be here. So like, as much as, and I always say that even when people come at me about like, well, yes, it's tropey and it's uncomfortable. And if you're Asian, it's a little, sometimes it can be a little ick, but you can't discount the effect that it had on that it had on our community in terms of representation on the stage, on the page, in front of the camera. This next season has Daniel Day Kim in Yellowface at the Roundabout. It has Ramin Karimloo in Pirates of Penzance, which is my favorite Gilbert and Sullivan musical. JG Makapugwai and Nadia Dandashi and Kim Blank and Christine Hee-jung Hwang in Suffs. We've got so many. We've got Nicole Scherzinger that's coming in with Sunset Boulevard.
Wait, oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I wish I was hot like her girlfriend. I was trying to quote
I wish I would.
Reference.
Please.
Nice.
I've actually met her. I met her at the premiere of The Sensei because her cousin was in The Sensei, and I was a producer on that. And Diana Liana Santo was the writer-director of that.
Oh, cool.
And I know it's all so mixed, right?
All-star.
Nicole Scherzinger is one of the most drop-dead gorgeous people you could ever meet in person. Like, I looked at her and I was like, you're not even human. You are just, wow. Like, she has it. Whatever it is, she got it. And she's a theater kid. She went to performing arts high school. You know, like that's the thing. So we've got her, we've got 4 Asians in Heart of Rock and Roll that's coming in: Zoe Jensen, Ray Lee, Orville Mendoza, Robert Pendia. And we've got like 6 in Hamilton, and so this
one cool casting
Briones
that came out since your blog post is that both Briones are going to be in Hadestown pretty soon.
Yes.
John and his daughter Issa will be taking the Eurydice role. He's playing Hermes, so they're not related in the show, but it's a really cool. Hadestown was one of my favorite shows of the last few years, and what I actually like too is that even though it's not necessarily canonical, but like because Ava originated the role, they tend to cast Asian actresses as Eurydice. Same thing with Philippa Sue originating Eliza. It's not always an Asian actress, but mostly they're Asian actors. So it almost kind of like gives a new Asian role for people on Broadway because of these 2 big shows. They
do give a tip of the nod to actresses of Asian descent in those particular roles. Yes. And is it always somebody Asian? No.
It doesn't have to be, but the fact that
it doesn't have to be.
Right. That they can be, and because they originated as such, is really cool to me.
Yeah, like for right now, as in opera we call it Eurydice. Eurydice
nice.
is Orfeo, and Eurydice actually is the first opera ever written that's recognized. Yeah, I know that. Look at boom.
Wacky.
See that knowledge?
Facky.
I know. I was a music major. What are you gonna do? Cool. But Lola Tung right now is performing the role of Eurydice. Yeah.
Do the melodies make any reference to like the opera? I wonder. I don't know.
You know what? I haven't actually listened to it for that. I've just listened to it.
Yeah, I mean, it may or may not. I wonder if musically, I think because it started as like a folk album before it became a Broadway show.
Right.
So I wonder if like there's some musical notes or some like music theory that ties it to that original opera. That would be cool.
There probably is. I mean, we have Courtney Reed as Satine in Moulin Rouge right now, holding it down. She's the only Asian in that show. So we've Sweeney Todd has several, headed up by Ruthie Ann Miles, our second only female Tony winner of Asian descent. Dorcas Leung is in The Notebook, which is coming out, which is out. The Notebook. The Notebook is causing a lot of casting controversy, more for the fact that one of its leads is that it's an interracial love story. And
Oh,
people go from, I love The Notebook, the movie, and they expect to walk in and see it. And it's been slightly updated and amended, and honestly makes a lot of sense to have this interracial love story. Is the reason why it couldn't happen. Because, you know, as much as The Notebook is a great film, you're kind of like, well, why can't two white people get married? I don't know. Like,
yeah.
in the older
How
South,
about that? Yeah.
what
The
he
dramatic
doesn't have money. I
tension.
don't get
Ooh, you
it,
could
you
cut it
know?
with yeah.
Yeah, but I am looking forward to seeing Issa and John. And Grace Yu is in the ensemble of Hadestown and Kate Trinidad. So, you know, yeah. And Lola Tung is actually a theater kid. She is a graduate of Carnegie Mellon drama. You know,
Yeah.
as much
Awesome.
as she was on Summer I Turned Pretty, you
Well,
know,
and her co-star, again, another reference, another connection to the Flash. Her current co-star,
Yeah.
the current Orpheus, was Kid Flash himself on
That's right.
season 7 of the Flash.
So I'm looking forward to it being a banner year where I can walk into the theater and see myself reflected in some kind of way, and know that even if it's not me, it's people that resemble me. And I always make a point, like, can I take my kid to it? Right. Because
Sure.
like, remember a couple of years ago, there was a musical put together called Soft Power, which the book was by David Henry Wong. And when I rolled up to the public there, I took my kid, and he was 9 then. And he said, Mama, is this show for me? And I said, well, this show is at the public theater, and the public theater is for everyone. I said, but today, this show is absolutely for you. And don't you ever think that you don't belong here. And I could see the light in his eye. And then he sat through it. He had no problem sitting through it. And I often wonder they do these studies. What does theater bring to children? And they did a study, came out this last year, and they said people who go to theater have more empathy. They have more ability to connect. They have an innate understanding of the universality of the human condition, and can lend their feelings to other people in situations. And I have seen my son do that. And I think it is because he is de facto a theater kid. You know, I was a theater kid. I'm raising another theater kid. I encourage parents to take their kid to live theater, and don't leave them in front of the video games all the time. Don't leave them just going to superhero movies.
Video games can be musicals too, but okay, go on.
Yes, and Chris Evans, by the way, is a theater kid. His parents owned a theater.
It's not just his stunning good looks.
No, his father's a dentist, but his mother ran a children's theater. So he and all his brothers grew up in this theater for kids, and they got
his brother was in the Ken number last night. So
exactly, and actually,
whoa,
there's an outtake from the Barbie movie, and Simu is talking about Chris's brother, and he goes, well, some of us have an extensive musical theater background. So some of us, and Simu's like, basically not me, some of us can do a number over and over again. And some of us are complaining about the tightness of the number. And like, maybe we need to go over that step again, because some of us are not getting it the first time. So, we can.
And the backflip.
So,
wow.
He could do the backflip though. And as a former gymnast, I appreciated it. He could have gotten a little more height on it.
We can't get through this without having at least one sing-songy topic question. Of those things you just listed, which was like the roll call at the Asian American, theater nerd school.
Yeah.
Thank you. Of those shows you just listed, what's the song or the two songs you're most looking forward to? The actual numbers. Of all these shows which have Asian cast members, I just want to ask about the
I really want to
songs.
hear.
What are you looking forward to?
I want to hear Nicole Scherzinger do With One Look.
Okay.
Because that's the giant, in another Andrew Lloyd Webber moment, it would be, that's when the chandelier falls. That's when, that's when they are on that mythical river with all the candles. Like, I just want to hear and see how she connects to that, because the truth is she's a gorgeous woman. I have no idea what age she is, but she seems kind of ageless, you know? And so that song is about the power I used to have on the screen, and that the power I don't have anymore, but I'm going to reclaim it. And so I want to see, as somebody who, like, let's face it, when she was lead Pussycat Doll, nobody could touch her. She was absolutely, don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me, for generations of people. I want to see what kind of maturity, as she's looking back, the character has to look back, so the actor has to look back, and I want to see if she's able to nuance it. I'm sure she is. I think it will be a remarkably revealing kind of full circle moment for her, and I want to see it in person.
Totally. Now I want to see it in person. Yeah. Awesome.
Don't you? I know, right? I should have a theater podcast.
Don't you?
Don't you? Don't ya?
I think we'll wrap there. Before we get to the very end, Erin, how can people find you and your blog and all of your work on the internet?
Well, this coming Friday, I am actually singing a ballad, on a show at 54 Below called Mom's Night Out. So it's a bunch of Broadway moms and we're all singing. And it's at 9:30. So there's like a code on my Instagram, and you can get $15 tickets plus like food and beverage, whatever that is. And my blog is www.fairyprincessdiaries.com. I'm on TikTok, and I can't remember the handle. And I think my Instagram is at Erin Quill. So I think the TikTok.
You're E-Quill in a few places, I think.
I know, it's
because
a few years ago, Playbill voted me one of the most useful women in theater.
Okay.
And
as per the really useful company, that's the name of that.
it was more like it was more people who make a difference.
Sure.
Because Broadway casting has changed tremendously since I started writing, and I'm not taking credit for all the changes. I'm saying I highlight. There's that line in My Big Fat Greek Wedding, like the men may be the head, but the women are the neck, and they turn the head the way they want it to go. Maybe I'm a muscle in that theater neck,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
I turn people's attention to it. So they said that quote unquote award was for influencing how people look and view at Asians in theater.
Totally.
You know,
you have one of the more influential panels in all of Broadway Con. So
yeah, I mean, I will say it's a heavy.
If you don't want to give yourself credit, we will definitely give you all of the flowers.
No, it sometimes even I'm shocked. I'm like, who am I talking to? But I've done panels with like David Henry Wong, Young Jean Lee. Like, it's not just actors, because actors can only work if writers are working. So I want to encourage everybody, if you're a young, like, that's how Dom and I met. Yeah. Dom is a writer. You know, I would not have met Dom and had this like million-year friendship without him putting pen to paper, or however we used to write back in the day. Was it a typewriter?
I have to say, if Christina Wong is listening, we were on a web show before web shows existed. That's one of the amazing things about karaoke nights.
Karaoke nights.
At the time, Jacqueline Kong was like, we'll put this on the internet. And we were like, really? Are people going to watch a TV show on the internet? Wow.
Now that's the only place you can watch TV
she
shows.
Right in that sense? But bad luck. It came out around when 9/11 happened, so never mind. Yeah. But we were on a web TV show before any of them. Anyway,
we were the ground. You know, it's funny because I was on a panel. I was in the audience, and Justin Chon was on a panel. This was a million years ago, but Justin was a very young actor, but he had done the Twilight films, and he was friends with my ex, and so he said something about like, and that's why I'm so grateful for the older generation. And we had sort of elbowed each other and been like, oh yeah, haha, he means us. He goes, you know, like Erin. And I was like, what? The older generation. But now officially I'm moving into my auntie years. So I'm okay with it, because you know what? Aunties don't have to work that hard. That's the secret.
Let the kids have it.
Let them do it. You know, you want to do 8 shows a week? Perfect. I'll come on, be funny, get off. I'll still get my same paycheck. Like, Go ahead, kids, take it.
Dominic, how can people find you and any update on 12 Valentines?
Oh, great things are happening, but sorry, at Dama, DOMMAH on most of the socials. My TikTok is at Dama1. And my music thing at the moment is 12valentines.net. 12valentines.net, we're gonna have a really good Suicide Squad song to go with our Secret Six song that I can't wait to go into more when we have the time. And Keith.
Yeah, I'm the Real Chow on Twitter and Real Keith Chow on Instagram. Follow the Nerds of Color on all socials at the Nerds of Color. Go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/the Nerds of Color for our videos, and go to teepublic.com for the merch. Go to hardknockmedia.com for all of the podcasts in the Hard Knock family. Give us a rating and review. We'll link out to all of the links that Erin and Dominic mentioned in our description below. Thank you for listening to Hard Knock Life. Until next time, I'll give you the final word.
Was all play a sports reference? Because this is also a sports podcast sometimes.
What?
When you said all play, it's an all play. Is that a football thing? Or sorry.
No, it's kind of I'm really like, ooh, what is that? Sports ball?
Yeah, okay.
Like no, all play to me means like anybody can play. Like theater is an all play, and it always should be an all play, and it has not been. And what I like to tell people is make sure you understand the dynamics of what it is supposed to be before you go in and tell us how to change it. I know what the possibilities are because I'm seeing it right now. I'm seeing, and I'm not taking credit for it, but I'm just so overjoyed that I can look at this Broadway list, and I filled 3 pages this afternoon of Asians that are on Broadway.
Yeah.
And when I started, I could count them on one hand.
Yep.
So that's what I mean. Theater is an all play. You get to go in, you get to have fun with great people, you get to work your track, and then, you get to go home and figure out how else to change the world. But being on stage as a person of color, any person of color, is a political statement. You're there, you're taking up space, you are advocating for yourself merely by being there where people can see you, and they can see you out loud and proud. There's no distance in theater, it's immediate. And in the theater, they've done studies, and after about 10 minutes, the audience, their heartbeats synchronize.